Okay, so what's next up for League before I decide to step foot back into Overwatch for a video? I could probably talk about Misfortune like I've been meaning to. What's up?
There's another Darkin.
Well, shit. Throw everything out the damn window. We got a new Darkin in the house. Do you know what this means, my people? We get to see if we got anything right within the Darkin theory from my previous videos.
But what about the inclusion of exciting lore and a new fun champion to play?
Yeah, sure, of course, whatever. There's no time to waste, my people. Let's learn about the new champion Kayn and see what new information he can bring us about the Darkin. Kayn was enlisted as a child soldier for the Noxian army, for nothing more than to take advantage of Ionia's compassion. Zed came across Kayn, who leveled his broken sickle at him, with bloody knuckles and eyes harboring the pain and fury of a hardened warrior. At that moment, Zed did not see a helpless child, but a weapon that could be turned against those who sent him to die. Thus, he welcomed him into the Order of Shadows, and taught him everything he knows. Seeking to one day lead the Order of Shadows, Kayn embraced his final test given to him by Zed, intercepting the Noxian caravan and preventing the Darkin weapon from leaving Ionia. However, Kayn had other objectives. After eliminating several guards, Kayn's brother, Nakuri, intercepted him. "I knew you were impetus, brother, but this? Following me all this way, hoping to share in my glory." The both of them proceeded to dispatch the remaining soldiers when the caravan finally arrived. As his men were getting slaughtered by the brothers, one soldier foolishly grabbed the Darkin weapon in a desperate attempt to save his fellow soldiers from the two assassins. However, the soldier was consumed with the inhuman rage of the weapon and swung the scythe at his own comrades. The scythe slowly consumed the soldier's body, forming scales of hardened carapace with each vicious swing. Kayn killed the consumed soldier, separating the body from the scythe. Kayn stared at the scythe as it laid before him, dormant, waiting to be wielded by its next warrior. Or perhaps, its next victim. Kayn reached for the weapon. "Brother, stop! What are you doing? You saw what it can do. It must be destroyed." "No. It's mine." "What's it going to be, brother?" Using his shadow arts, Kayn lifted the scythe into his hands and spun it around as if he alone was born to wield it. He spun it with a comfortable flourish and leveled the blade toward Nakuri's throat. Alright, so what can we learn from this lore besides that Riot has a thing for putting brothers against each other? Like, seriously, Riot, are you projecting something we should know about? Anyways, let's make a checklist of the new information Kayn provides us, you know, just gonna post all that good stuff on this wall behind me right here, okay? Let's go. First, the Darkin, or at the very least this Darkin in particular, are spirits trapped within a weapon. I'm willing to believe this is the case for all Darkins since Aatrox's title refers to him as the Darkin Blade. We'll get more into that later. Second, the corruption and transformation into a Darkin that we discussed in my previous videos begins the moment you grab the weapon, made evident by the soldier that grabbed the scythe and instantly lost control of his body. His body was also forming these scales that are reminiscent of Aatrox's scales. I'm certain these are the same scales forming on Kayn's left arm as well, his primary arm for wielding the scythe. Third, the corruption and transformation can be stalled if the person has the strength to do so. Upon grabbing the weapon, Kayn remained with enough control to be able to move the scythe at his own will, instead of the other way around. Sure, the transformation is still happening, as we can clearly see with his left arm, but Kayn still wields the scythe with his own volition, prolonging the corruption enough for what he hopes to accomplish. Unlike our soldier friend who pretty much died instantly. Lastly, the darkened weapons can communicate to others through the mind. Nakuri and Kayn heard the voice of the scythe echo through their mind. So as weapons, they possess some sort of telepathic ability, which, not to toot my own horn or anything, but pretty much gives more evidence to my theory about the Darkin targeting the mind of its vessels. Sure, I mostly spoke about the Darkin being able to inhibit the orbital frontal cortex, but the fact that the Darkin are capable of speaking directly to the mind of not only its vessel, but seemingly anyone nearby, establishes a direct connection to the mind. And that's good enough evidence for my ego. Anyways, now with this concrete evidence, let's take a look at my previous videos and see what we got right, what we got wrong, and the possible future of the Darkin on Runeterra. Alright, so what did we get right? As we said earlier, the Darkin spirit can establish a connection with the mind of its vessel. How and why this connection occurs is still up for theorizing. If you want to know what I believe is the reason why, you can just rewatch my Darkin mind control video. Shameless plug, I know. Next, the Darkin spirit does in fact corrupt the vessel and bestow power to it. The power just comes through the form of a seemingly unstoppable weapon. The combination of the corruption and great power allows the Darkin to then be fueled for resurrection through murder. The corruption and power is fairly obvious after reading Kayn's lore, but how do I know they are fueled through murder? Well, Kayn's in-game mechanic revolves around transforming based on who he kills. If he kills melee champions, then he absorbs these, little red orbs, and can then be taken over by the Darkin completely. Sure, this is an in-game mechanic as opposed to actual lore, but it's still an intentional design choice by Riot that I can't just ignore. Besides, I low-key want to be able to see that part of my theory was right too, so yeah, I'm gonna include it. And that's pretty much it for what we got right. Time for the shit that we got dead wrong. The Darkin are not tied to a specific region like I thought they were. Instead, they are tied to specific weapons. Furthermore, this fact seems to eliminate most of the candidates Reddit Tedster and I theorized. We were right in using similarities to Aatrox to theorize candidates, but at that time the only similarities we had was corruption and bloodlust, which led Tedster to suggest Varus, Brand, and Jax, which I then included Scion to the mix as a resurrected body for a Darkin. Since Varus was from Ionia and Brand was reborn in Freljord, I extended this theory to also include that these candidates share the locations Aatrox has been reported to have fought wars in, suggesting that the Darkin spirit could reside in these areas. However, thanks to the release of Kayn's story, we now understand that this is no longer the case. Although the location of the wars Aatrox has fought lined up almost perfectly with the suggested Darkin candidates, it's more important to remember that these candidates were speculative to begin with. But the similarities between Aatrox and Kayn are more significant since this is official lore. The second official Darkin is a living weapon found in Ionia. Aatrox's blade is reported to be a living weapon as well, just like Kayn's scythe. The scythe also has a name, Rost, and is sentient, suggesting the Darkin spirit resides within the weapon itself. This gives us additional insight into Aatrox as well. If the Darkin resides within the weapon, then Aatrox isn't the man, it's the blade, with the rest being nothing more than an extension of its body. Now, as I mentioned before, this new addition to the lore eliminates most of the Darkin candidates we discussed in the previous video. Brand, Scion, and Jax have no living weapons, unless this lamppost is actually a Darkin using the best disguise ever.
Fear me, mortal, for I am the spawn of fears.
Varus, on the other hand, is a different story. Reddit Tedster hit the nail on the head with Varus, since it's practically been confirmed Varus is a Darkin human hybrid. First of all, he is listed as a Darkin human hybrid on the League of Legends wiki page. But if that doesn't suit your fancy, we also have some rather revealing interactions between Rost and Varus to go on.
We find Aatrox, and it's a party of murder. A murder party. Varus, the three of us, 5 of us, together, we will lay waste to this realm. Yes, Varus, let us sow chaos.
Rost demonstrates clear recognition of Varys' power and actually includes him among Aatrox and himself. Perhaps because he knows Varys is a walking Darkin ready to be reborn. Also, when Rost refers to the 5 of us, it's clear he is referring to the 5 only known Darkin that are referenced in Aatrox's lore. So these interactions as well as Varys' lore pretty much seal the deal. But if you need more proof, Varys' weapon has been speculated by our community to be a living weapon as well. Most of the posts I've read on Reddit refer to how Varys' idle stance reveals the bow beginning to shake out of control until Varys regains control with his other arm. Also, his weapon shares visual similarities to Varys' transforming body, suggesting that Varys and the bow are slowly becoming one, similar to Kayn's left arm showing a transformation, the primary arm he uses to wield Rost. But Varys got his powers from the Pit of Palace, a pit of corrupting fire, not a darkened bow. I hear you all typing away your responses. And yes, you are right. The Pit of Palace is the confirmed source of Varys' power, which goes against the whole Darkin being tied to a weapon rule. But we can't simply deny all of this evidence. Therefore, I propose this, my own little addition to the theory. If Varys truly is a Darkin human hybrid, then this gives us more insight into the physiology of the Darkin. What if the Pit of Palace was created to contain the Darkin spirit after it had been extracted from the weapon it was originally bound to? After all, we're talking about Ionia here, the region of Runeterra associated with magic and spirituality. Therefore, I believe it's possible Ionia will have the understanding as to how to extract the Darkin spirit. Thus, perhaps the weapons themselves are not the Darkin, but instead the spirit is using the weapon as a vessel as well. This would be the only way to explain Varys' inclusion among the Darkin. Perhaps the Darkin spirit deemed Varys' thirst for vengeance worthy and inhabited Varys' preferred weapon of choice, the bow, making it easier for him to take advantage of the Darkin spirit. Assuming what we're saying about the Darkin being fueled through murder is true, then it's fair to say that the Darkin spirit would want the vessel to use the weapon he or she is most skilled with in order to ensure the maximum amount of bloodshed. And that, my people, is what I theorize to be the true nature of the Darkin. The Darkin's true nature is that of a flaming spirit. It concentrates its essence into a weapon to be wielded by someone they deem worthy. If the person is not worthy, then they quickly become consumed by the Darkin, and go on a rampage until the Darkin has fully consumed everything it could from the weak human. The Darkin weapon requires someone stronger, someone who will ensure the spirit's revival, by being strong enough to not only wield the intense power, but who will also not be defeated so easily. It takes advantage of the vessel's hunger for power. Thus, the vessel is locked in a struggle. They can either attempt to control the weapon and use it for whatever agenda they have, which still fuels the spirit as long as the person uses it as a weapon, or the chosen vessel gives into the corruption, allowing the darkened spirit to take control until it eventually is reborn. Either way you slice it, there's only one destination for the darkened vessel. Maybe. Cause if I'm accepting Kayn's in-game mechanic as evidence, then it's only fair to include his Shadow Assassin form as evidence of being able to overcome the darkened spirit. But that doesn't really fit in with my theory, so... screw it. Quality content, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, my people, thank you for watching.